Welcome to High Heels and Lipstick Conversation, the space where grown-ass women get real, get inspired, and get empowered. Where confidence meets class and real talk meets real women. Where we celebrate the power, resilience, and beauty of womanhood. I'm your host, Namia Carnice, your sister in style, success, and soulful conversation. This podcast is for my seasoned ladies, the women who've been there, done that, and still are stepping strong. From career moves to self-care, from relationships to reinvention, we keep it real, we keep it classy, and we always keep it fly. Now go grab your wine, your coffee, or your tea, because this is High Heels and Lipstick Conversation, and we got some grown woman talk to do. And don't forget to like, share, and hit the subscribe button. Let's go. What's up, y'all? This is your girl, Namia Carnice. Come on in. I am just getting myself adjusted. I see some people that were waiting. I am a couple minutes behind, but that's okay. I'm glad y'all waited. I'm glad y'all ready for some conversation on this evening. So give me just a quick minute, y'all, just to kind of adjust some things on my end with technology. And we're going to get right into some conversation. As always, I love for people who come into this conversation, come into what I call my boardroom to check in. So please do me a solid and check in on this evening. You can put some kissy lips in the chat. You can put some high heels in the chat. Whatever your pleasure is, whatever emoji is your pleasure, please feel free to check in. What I'm doing, y'all, is I'm trying to make sure that I pin the link to tonight's conversation. For those who want to join me live drop on in the conversation, those who want to join me live, I want to make sure that I pin the link. I'm going to drop the link where folks can come on in and join the conversation. And I want to make sure that I pin that to the top. Okay. And so I'm just toggling around. So y'all come in, be patient with me on this evening. I don't got moderators. I don't use moderators or anything of that nature. I'm doing this on my own. Eventually I will get some moderators to help me, but I want to make sure that I get the link out there. Okay. And drop the link in the chat. So folks who would like to join me can feel free to join me in on this conversation on this evening. So what is up, y'all? Hello, beautiful people. Thank you for joining me for another High Heels and Lipstick Conversation. Welcome to my boardroom. Welcome, lovelies. I appreciate you. Welcome back. If you have joined previous conversations before, welcome back. If this is your first time joining the conversation, welcome. We always check in to begin our conversation, just so I can know who's checking in, who's here for the conversation. So please, at any time, please show some love in the chat. Say, hey, girl, hey, what's up? Put some emojis in the chat. Let me know that you are here on this evening. If you don't know, I'm about to let you know. I am your girl, Namia Carnice. This is High Heels and Lipstick Conversation. This is the place where we have real talk, real women stuff, and we just come together and we converse like good girlfriends. We don't leave our brothers out, right? I'm a black female platform, but we don't bring leave our brothers out. So if you are a brother joining the conversation, we welcome you. Don't be scared. Don't be scared. Don't be scared. We ain't gonna do nothing scary tonight. We just want to have some good conversations, okay, on this evening. And listen, tonight's conversation, woo, it is just it's necessary. It's necessary. Thank you. I see some folks checking in and showing some love in the chat. I appreciate you on this evening. I appreciate you. I appreciate you. I appreciate you for checking in on this evening. I see Monique checking in. Hey, girl. Hey, thank you, thank you, thank you. I see my girl checking in. Busy Cleaning Services LLC. Thank you for checking in on this evening. Y'all continue to check in. And Busy Cleaning Services. That's my girl Brandy. And we can share more about her business later because I got some opportunities for business owners and brand owners to, just to kind of partner with me. And I'm gonna share a little bit about that later. But thank you for checking in on this evening. Listen, okay, so tonight is like a very, very necessary conversation. I don't know about you, but I needed me a concoction to be able to have this conversation. Okay, so I want to give you a moment if you need to, before we dig in, if you need to go get you a glass of wine. Maybe you're not a wine drinker. Maybe you want a cup of tea, a nighttime tea, because it's 7:45. We done had a long day at work. I'd had a long week at work. I want to give you an opportunity to go grab that before we dig into tonight's conversation. But tonight's conversation is necessary. Okay, let me just say that again. We are having what I am calling, the platform is called High Heels and Lipstick Conversation, but tonight we're having what I am terming lipstick and lessons. Okay, and this is the first of the series in the lipstick and lessons series. If you are new to my platform, you never checked in before, this is your first time, you're only here because you like, that seemed like an interesting conversation. I thank you, because I aim to have interesting conversations. But if you are new to the platform, we do conversations a little different here. Okay, so we dig into a variety of topics that are significant to Black women, that are significant to and impact Black women in particular. Okay, and you ask, why Black women? Because I'm a Black woman. Okay, born and raised by a Black woman. My grandmama and them, my aunties and them are Black women. And so I live the Black woman experience every day in my life, whether it's in my, my career life, what I do for career, and just every day. And so my platform is built around and centered around the lived experiences of Black women. Okay, and so we dig into those topics that are significant to us, that are impacting us. This is not a platform, because there's so much. If you are a YouTuber or if you frequent the podcast on YouTube, like you may be checking in with me from the YouTube page, there is so much that's out there. There's so much out there on the podcast platforms. And we aim to be a little different, right? So while we may dig into some heavy controversial topics, so on and so forth, I always want to end every conversation that we have, every time I come before you, with something that we learn and we gain. I always want to be able to present solutions. I always want to be able to empower. I always want to be able to encourage. We may not always disagree, because sometimes some of the things that we have talked about, even in the past, we've had guests on, things of that nature, we haven't always agreed, right? But my hope is that whenever you leave my platform, okay, that you learn a little something, that you feel empowered, that you're encouraged one way or another. Okay. I, in particular, am all for women growing, okay, being what I call a woman of wisdom. So I created this series, Lipstick and Lessons, and we will dig into some other topics in this series over the next several weeks. But I created this series because I happen to think that wisdom is the number one tool for us as women that we can use to arm ourselves to help our growth. Wisdom is the number one tool that we can utilize to, put in our toolkit of womanhood to help us to navigate life, right? I wrote a whole book about it. Okay, like so here it go. I'll tell you about that a little later. But I wrote a whole book about wisdom. I'm working on a second edition of that book called Lipstick Affirmation, and I'll share a little bit about how to purchase those books later. But when we talk about wisdom, I'm just creating, giving you the context behind the Lipstick and Lessons series. But when we talk about wisdom, okay, when we talk about wisdom in this series and where we'll go with this, and we talk about wisdom in particular, if you look at it from, because yes, I'm a church girl, okay. Now listen, I love Jesus. That don't mean you come to High Heels and Lipstick conversation that you may not hear some cussing, okay, or some real raw conversation. I love Jesus, but I cuss a little bit, okay. But I know the Lord. I know His word. And so I always take a little moment to also teach a little bit. So pardon me, because that's my gifting, that's my calling. And so that's not something that I can escape, even if I wanted to. But when we think about wisdom and this Lipstick and Lesson series, wisdom from the biblical standpoint is personified as a woman. So when we read about wisdom, you open up the book of Proverbs, those of us who are Bible believers, wisdom is referred to in the female personification and is given the pronouns, she. Okay. And so it is no secret that there is something to be said, and I'm not going to do an exhaustive Bible study, okay? But it's no secret that there is something to be said about women, especially us as Black women, when there's so much that it is against us. There's so much that we face in our day-to-day lives, in our careers, in our homes, in our relationships, okay? With our children, all the many different roles. It is no secret that wisdom, there is something to be said about women who walk in the very essence of wisdom. Okay. And I'm just going to share this brief story and we're going to get into our conversation. But I can remember my grandmother, and my grandmother, I dedicate my Lipstick Affirmations book to my grandmother. And my grandmother, God rest her soul, she was a very wise old Southern belle from Mississippi that migrated in the, in the migration when all the folks from down south was moving up north to get these factory jobs, so on and so forth. But she carried that old Southern wisdom with us. And so as I was growing up, it was nothing uncommon to hear my grandmother just to give these wise words, okay? These old, what I call old Southern proverbs, things that she learned growing up in the deep South. And that those words of wisdom that she shared, and they could have been euphemisms and just old wise sayings. One of the things that she taught me is, maybe sometimes you got to sprinkle your words with a little honey and a little sugar. And being a young girl, 7, 8 years old, not really understanding that at the moment. Now, today, at my ripe old, damn near almost 50, I understand what that means. That sometimes, because my mouth has gotten me in trouble. I'm not afraid to say what I need to say. I'll say what I need to say. I don't sugarcoat. I'm not very good at that. I'm not big on lying. I'm not good at any of that stuff. So sometimes what I say and the way I say it can pierce people. And I understand that about me. I understand that's a flaw about me. And the Lord been working on me, okay? He's been working hard on me for the last couple years. But I'm always reminded of that old wise and that wisdom that my grandmother shared, that sometimes you got to give people, you can tell people the truth, but sometimes you got to sprinkle a little sugar and a little honey on it. And so it is things like that inspire me just to impart and to share and to evolve and to grow as a woman, and to just, sharing these conversations, these what I call lipstick and lessons in this series, for the purpose of helping myself to grow in wisdom, and then just sharing that with y'all, my good girlfriends, my lovelies, my audience, so on and so forth. So this series is going to be all over the place, okay? Because we're going to dig into a number of things. We're going to talk about relationships. We're going to talk about day to day. I haven't yet determined how many conversations that we'll have in these series. I'm just going to go until God keeps saying, okay, that's enough. I think you've honed in on the point. But we're going to focus on a lot of different variety of topics in this lipstick and lessons series, but it's all going to be centered around wisdom and utilizing wisdom in our day-to-day lives. Okay. Let me see. I see somebody else is checked in. Hey girl. Hey Deandra. Hey, how are you? It is great to see you. Thank you so much for checking in on this evening. I appreciate you. I appreciate those who support me. Again, I have dropped the link in the chat, okay? And I'm going to say this, you are free once I open the lines for you to come in and have conversation. You are free to come and have conversation. We are live, okay? You do not have to come off of camera. So if you want to come and have some conversation, the audience can hear you, as long as when you come in, you are connected, okay, to your audio. And you don't have to come on camera. We can take you off camera, or you don't have to open your camera if you're not you want to have conversation, you want to be live, but you don't necessarily want to show your beautifulness and your naturalness tonight. But the link is there for those who would like to join the conversation, come on stage and have conversation with me on this topic that we're going to discuss tonight. So tonight we are talking about the dangerous glorification of ride or die culture. Okay. The dangerous glorification of ride or die culture. And I term this that the ride or die mentality, sorry, tongue tied, must die. And in that glorification, we're talking about why so many Black women in particular, again, because my experience is that of a Black woman. So I live the Black woman experience. Why so many Black women were taught that loyalty to relationships, to a man, whatever the case, means that we have to endure pain, that we have to endure disrespect, that we have to endure emotional neglect, betrayal, self-abandonment just to prove our love. Now, typically when I have these high heels and lipstick conversation, I usually invite a guest on, but y'all are my guests tonight. So I'm not going to force anybody to come up, but if you have something you want to share, a thought you want to express, you can do it in the chat, or you can come on and talk live. Okay. So here's where I want to begin the conversation, okay? Because we're going to unpack a lot. We're going to talk about what loyalty is versus enabling. We're going to talk a little bit about side chick behaviors. We're going to talk about struggle love culture. We will dig a little bit into why women stay too long, and why the ride or die mentality must die again. So if you need to go grab you some wine, you need to go grab you some water, some tea, whatever your drink of choice is, please go ahead and do so. I also ask that you like and share this live. Okay, you can share it on your platform or your personal page. If you're checking in to me from Facebook, just go ahead and click that share button. If you're checking in from YouTube, please make sure that you subscribe. You click the notification button. That way you can know, you'll get a notification to your phone or whatever device letting you know when I am live. And please subscribe to my Facebook pages, because that's where you will learn when I'm having my next lipstick and lessons conversation. And you'll be in tuned. Okay. Hey Jamaica, my Gigi, welcome. Thank you for checking in on this evening. Okay, so we're gonna dig into it. So grab your wine, y'all. Come on. Let's have some conversation. I want to start this conversation by saying, listen, I am not a moral authority. Okay, I'm damn near 50, close to 50, but in my lifetime, I myself have either referred to myself as or thought of myself as the ride or die chick. Okay, I am a uh, baby of the 70s, grew up in the 80s and the 90s, and spent my young adulthood in the early 2000s to where I am to today, growing and taking off um, things, things, mantras, things of that nature that have been harmful to us as Black women, and that's a lot. Okay, so I'm going to preface it by saying that I'm no more authority on this. I'm just having a conversation. We just having a conversation. The second thing is that I'm in covenant. I'm married. Okay, and so this conversation may feel a little different for those of us women who are married, and you may have some thoughts if you are a married woman about that versus women who are single, hoping to be married, single and who have experienced things. Even my married women I know that are checking in, we didn't all experience things. We were single before we was married. I say all the time, I spent more time being single than I have been married. I'm just like going into 6 or 7 years into marriage to my husband. And so there is diversity in our perspectives. Okay. And I want you to be able to share those on tonight, but with the mindset that I am not at all a moral authority on this. Okay. Again, this is just us having some conversation. Okay. Tonight, again, we're live. You can call in. I've dropped a link. Let me highlight the link one more good time so that you can have that. You can grab that link. Grab that link from the chat and put that in whatever device that you're using, whatever browser that you're using as the conversation gets rolling. Make sure your audio is connected. You do not have to just be the lady. So if I got any brothers checking in, whether you're on YouTube, Facebook, what have you, and you want to be a part of the conversation, please feel free to come on board, be respectful, and let's chat and let's have some conversation. Okay. I'm going to do that for all of the lipstick lessons, the lipstick and lesson conversation, just to make sure that, this is a well-rounded discussion. Okay. So here's where I want to start the conversation. And I'm going to put this question in the chat because again, we have conversation a little bit different over here. And tonight you just got me. So you can either listen to me all night, or you can join in the conversation. But I'm going to put this question in the chat and I'm going to highlight it. And this is how we're going to begin our conversation. And I'm going to give you a moment to think about it and then answer the question. But the question is, our opening question is this: do you think Black women have been conditioned to romanticize suffering in relationships? And if so, why? Do you think we, as Black women, have been conditioned to romanticize suffering in relationships? And if so, why? I'm gonna let y'all think about that. I'm gonna give y'all a chance to get y'all fingers together and get to typing and let me know your response to that question. And while y'all do that, I'm gonna take a little sip. Give y'all a chance to think on it. But do you think we as Black women have been conditioned to romanticize suffering in relationships? And if so, why? Okay. If so, why? Have we been conditioned? If so, why do you think we've been conditioned? While you're thinking about that, I do want to share some statistics. So I did share these statistics the last time we had a high heels and lipstick conversation. And it's in no way, this is not Domestic Violence Awareness Month, but if you know me, you know that I'm passionate about it. And I have done work in this field, volunteer work, so on and so forth, for a number of years. And so I think this gives us some context, some further context for this conversation on this evening. So keep that question in mind, but also pay attention to what we call the truth. We can't ignore it. So 4 in 10 Black women, and I know this is kind of small, but 4 in 10 Black women, actually, I got to read this from, I got to be able to read this from, bear with me, y'all, from my notes, because I got eyeballs that doesn't allow me to see small print anymore. But it says 4 in 10 Black women experience physical violence from an intimate partner in their in their lifetime. So that's 40% of Black women experience some kind of physical or mental abuse in their lifetime. Okay. Black women in particular are 35% more likely to experience domestic violence, or what we call intimate partner violence in their relationships. Okay. Nearly 30% of women killed by their partners were Black women. Okay. So out of all the women, all races of women, 30% that were killed by their partners, 30% were Black. Okay. Black women. And then more than 51% of Black female homicides are connected to their intimate partner. Okay, so Black women who are being killed, more than half of those, and I'm on YouTube, so I gotta preference my words, but unalived, but more than 51% of those individuals are Black women who have been unalived, have been done so by what we call their intimate partners. They were in relationship. Okay. So that's just some context to give us. Why did I share that? Because it's important. Some of it is relevant to our conversation. But going back to our question, okay, do you think Black women have been conditioned to romanticize suffering in relationships? And if so, why? So Mickey has shared, I don't feel that we have been conditioned to romanticize suffering in relationships, as that is all we may have seen. We grew up in households in which we watched moms, grandmothers, and aunts suffer in relationship, and it has become the norm. But we don't necessarily romanticize it. And I would agree with that. So a lot of us, you know, our mothers, like she said, Jamaica, our grandmothers had relationships where they suffered. Okay. And there's a number of reasons for that. It could be due to our loyalty. Okay. We have this undying loyalty. We're going to talk about ride or die. We have this undying loyalty to our relationships. And we have developed, like I said, this what we call ride or die culture, or this ride or die mentality. And I'm no different. I have, in the past, I have labeled myself as such, been called as such, loyal to a fault, whatever the term that you want to put on it. But often Black women are loyal to a fault to relationships, even when we are suffering. Okay. Now, why am I having this conversation? A few weeks ago, maybe a good month ago, maybe even 2 months ago, there was a video that went viral of Lorenz Tate, and there was a conversation that he was having. Nia Long was a part of that conversation. And one of the things that Lorenz Tate expressed was that Black men should not take women's loyalty for granted. Now, despite what we see, hear, experience on social media, on podcasts, so on and so forth, Black women, when it comes to their Black men, we are the most loyal. Okay. Now, I know we got the Meg the Stallions, we got all of these celebrity, because social media is swamped with celebrity culture, and the narrative is different on social media. But social media is not a real place. Okay. Let me just start there. So if you are viewing celebrity and social media influencers and relationships through the lens of this is ideal and this is what is happening in the Black community, then you are being falsely misled. Okay. We should not be looking at celebrities. We should not be looking at social media influencers as the idea of relationships. Okay. More than often than not, Black women are very loyal to our men. And in that loyalty, it means that we are suffering. So let me share this. I want to share this from Lorenz Tate, and he went viral. I'm going to share my screen here just so that you can see. Can y'all see that? Can y'all see my screen there? Okay, so you see picture of Lorenz Tate there. Okay, so what Lorenz Tate, again, he was on this panel. The headlines was Lorenz Tate hopes Black men do not take Black women's loyalty for granted. And the headline goes on to say that Lorenz Tate opens up about his nearly 20-year marriage to his wife and his thoughts on Black love. And in it, he quotes, specifically, Black love is unconditional. The support of Black women is so special because of their loyalty. He goes on to say that loyalty is something Black men should never take for granted. The love is unwavering. Okay. Now, that's true. Okay. I don't care, and I don't have the data in front of me. I didn't pull up those statistics, but I could get them. But more often than not, as I just stated, that we as Black women are very loyal to our men. What happens though, or what we're often we are not always aware of, is that being that ride or die chick is not a bad thing in and of itself, except for when it causes us to suffer. It causes us to lose ourselves. It causes us to self-destruct internally, okay? Because we're grasping, we're looking for validation, we're praying and hoping for the best. And sometimes we as women, we're taught that suffering somewhere along the lines, whether it's because we saw it with our mamas, we saw it with our grandmamas, or there's something internally that we're dealing with, somewhere along the lines, we believed in this hype. We bought into the thought that suffering proves how much we love a man or whomever you're in a relationship. But suffering comes with love. Okay. I can tell you very clearly and very honestly that in my younger years, in my ride or die chick era, I thought that the toxicity of a relationship was just something that happened, right? Which is the reason why I brought in those, statistics about domestic violence. But I thought that in order to prove myself that I am down for this man, that he has me, that I will go to the ends of the earth, that I had to suffer through his bullshit. Okay, excuse my French. Again, if you offended by these words, then you can kindly remove yourself. We love the Lord, but we cuss a little bit. But I thought that in order to prove myself, to show myself a real woman, in order to set myself apart from the other women or potential other women, that I had to suffer through toxicity and BS to prove myself. Okay. Jamaica says, I agree, ride or die to a fault, unfortunately, and suffering equates being down for that relationship. In some cases, toxic is the norm. Sometimes toxicity is the norm in relationships. Okay. But who taught us that pain had to be part of commitment, right? And so I think, again, going back to what we see, um, we've seen traditionally. And one thing I always say, I'm going to say this because one thing I always say that I appreciate about Gen X, which is the generation that I'm in. I probably got some millennials and I probably don't got too many Gen Zs that have checked in. But one thing that I appreciate about our generation is I feel that we are kind of the last, and then the older millennials are the last of what is thought of as the traditional generation, right? We still believe in love. We still believe in marriage. We still believe in all the things, right? Whereas often if you study and you observe the younger generation that's coming up, a lot of them are saying, forget love, forget relate. A lot of young women, a lot of young Black women have decided to stay single because of the toxicity and in the dating pool, the toxicity in relationships and the expectations to suffer through cheating, um, and all of those things. A lot of them, as young women, are choosing to stay single. Okay. And so Jamaica says that pain becomes a learned behavior. Okay. Thank you for checking in, Stephanie. Thank you for being here on this evening. But yes, it's taught, it's learned behavior. Okay. And so I think what is important for us, because we have learned behavior, we need to know the difference between loyalty versus enabling. Okay. Loyalty versus enabling. You say, Namia, what do you mean? What's loyalty? What's enabling? Okay. Loyalty is, you know, is kind of, speaks parallel to that unconditional love, the commitment that you make. Okay. You make that commitment to that person. You love that person. Enabling someone is allowing behaviors to diminish who you are, to diminish your value. Okay. It is protecting bad behavior. It is staying with that person, whomever that may be, through repeated disrespect. It is ignoring the damn red flags. Okay. Again, I'm not the moral authority on this because I have participated in some of these same behaviors. But again, it's all about growing, right? It's all about evolving. It's all about taking on wisdom. And that's what we're here for, right? Dismantling the ride or die chick, okay, is one of our first lessons. Dismantling the ride or die chick. Now, there's so many things that, again, married women will have a different perspective versus single women, because a lot of times, and I say this all the time, again, I only been married for some years, a few short years. I was single longer than I have been married. So I still understand a single woman's perspective. And it's hard as hell out here. Okay. It's hard. A lot of us as Black folk, Black men, Black women, we come with trauma. We come with trauma. You get to our age, you have to filter in the dating pool. You have to filter through trauma that we have accumulated, and that shows up in dating, that shows up in how we engage with each other. You can just see that shit on social media, right? There's a whole gender war that is very weary and tiresome for those of us who still believe in love, who still believe in one another. that every day we have to get on social media, and what comes across my algorithm is another back and forth debate between black men and black women, and that shit is tiresome. It's getting played out, and I'll be glad when that trend is over. But there's so much that we have to filter through when it comes to dating and relationships, and unfortunately social media plays a big part of that. But yes, we have been taught that in order to be seen as a woman of value, that sometimes we have to suffer through BS. Okay. What is loyalty versus enabling? So that looks also like making excuses for emotionally unavailable people. Okay. Emotionally unavailable means that they're present there physically, but they ain't giving you no emotions. Okay. Emotionally unavailable people can have you. And again, I'm talking to my ladies, so we're talking about men. We ain't bashing men, but we talking about them because that's who the hell we in relationship with. I may have some people from the LGBTQ plus community checking in, um, but in relationship, when we are tied to an emotionally unavailable man, we are often vying for their attention at all costs. Okay. What does that look like? What does that look like? Attaching ourselves to emotionally unavailable men. That means we waiting for them to call us. We excited when the number pops on the screen. Okay. We may not have talked to their ass in a week, but we're excited because he chose us this week to either give his attention to or to spend his time with us. And he gives us a little bit. You get a little bit of emotion, you get a little bit of attention, you get a little bit of time, but then he withdraws that and then focuses attention elsewhere. And then we get caught in this cycle of always desiring his attention, vying for his attention, vying for his phone call, vying for spending time with him. And he's given us scraps. Not enough to confess his love, to say, hey, I want to be with you, whatever the case may be. He's emotionally unavailable. He's there physically sometimes, but emotionally we get nothing. We're bankrupt. Okay. Where does that come from? Again, what we're taught. Sometimes it's internal. We got to check our internal um, heart, self-esteem, all of that, right? But attaching ourselves to emotionally unavailable men can be detrimental to our self-esteem, detrimental to our mental health, detrimental to our hearts, all that. Okay. Loyalty versus enabling looks like confusing potential with partnership. Sometimes, if we honest, okay, we get caught up in the potential of someone, but it could potentially be, right? Not that they're showing us shit that's promising, not that they're showing us anything that leads us to believe that this is going to lead to something more, or that this is a promising relationship. We get caught up in the potential, right? And so it's a harmful cycle. Okay. Jamaica says we have to break down too many layers at this stage. Absolutely. I don't know that I could date and be out there on the scene at this age. The shit is too, it's a lot with, and this is not to discourage my ladies who are single and who still have hope. This is not what I'm saying at all, but there is just a lot to unpack often, for us as women who are seasoned. I'm gonna call us seasoned. We ain't old, we seasoned because we still look good. Okay. But for those of us who are seasoned, it's a lot to unpack. And I don't know that I would be built for this dating scene that we are in now. Okay. Whether it's online. Now, that's not to say that God can't do his big one, and God can't do his thing. Okay. He can do that all day long. He did it for me. He did it for others. He can do it for anyone. But I do realize that it is it is very difficult dating in this season of our lives, and that comes with a lot of fears. That comes with a lot of broken hope. That comes with just a lot. Okay. And so, yes, I agree. We have to break down too many layers at this age, whether it's trauma, negativity. Again, social media is influencing us even at our age. Okay. What we see on social media, we take that and soak it into our spirits. And then as women, we go out here and we think all niggas ain't shit, or men have a certain attitude towards women as well because we've soaked in too much social media. Yeah. Jamaica says marriage can be a beautiful thing. It's not easy at all, though. It's not. It's not. Okay. So I don't even want to romanticize, even though it is a beautiful thing and it is great to have a partner. And I encourage marriage to anyone who desires to be married. But it is not easy, and it's not easy getting there. And the older you get, the harder it is to reach marriage. Okay. So loyalty versus enabling. The other thing is protecting bad behavior. Okay. So this is where we often get into what we call the cycle of abuse. Again, I'm no therapist or anything of that nature, so I'm not coming from a professional perspective. But often when we see individuals who are in what we consider abusive relationships, and they're not always physical, sometimes they're emotional, sometimes there's mental abuse. We often find ourselves protecting the bad behaviors of those that we're in a relationship. Okay. Because we're either covering up the bad behavior, or we're hoping that we gain something out of protecting the bad behavior, whether it's we don't want to feel the guilt and shame of the bad behaviors being uncovered, or again, we're in that loyalty. If I just hang in there, if I just rat it out, if I just show myself to be worthy, if I just show my value in this way, then the bad behaviors will stop. And so then we find ourselves in the spirit of protecting them. Okay. But the thing is, at some point, loyalty becomes permission. At some point, when we allow the bad behaviors, we allow those behaviors to continue, we stay stuck for the sake of being loyal. At some point, the loyalty becomes permission. Okay. Jamaica says, protecting bad behavior. He loves me, but he just can't show it because he wasn't loved properly, making excuses for his lack of. Yeah. And I've done that too. Okay. Oftentimes and listen, again, we Black folks, I just think we have traumas that are unique to us as Black people. I think we as Black women have traumas that are unique to us and are separate from Black men. And then I think Black men have traumas that are unique to them that we may not necessarily have. But we do. We make excuses for the lack of attention, the lack of connecting with us, the lack of effort. We begin to make excuses, all in the name of being ride or die. Okay. So here's another question that I want to pose to the audience. When does loyalty cross into enabling? When does loyalty cross into the line of enabling? While y'all think about that, I'm going to take another sip. What are y'all drinking on this evening? Anybody that's sipping with me, adult beverages with me, what are y'all sipping on this evening? When does loyalty cross the line into enabling? When does loyalty cross the line to enabling? Let y'all think on that. While y'all get your fingers together. Get your fingers together. Remember, I have dropped the link in the chat. I'll drop it again if you decide that you would like to come on live with me and have some discussion live in front of the live audience. You are more than welcome to do so. I'm going to drop the link again. You can grab that link if you decide to come on. You grab that link for whatever device that you're using. Make sure your audio is connected and come have some live conversation with me if you so choose. Okay. So the question is, when does loyalty cross the line into enabling? I'm going to tell you why I'm asking that question. Okay. We're going to talk a little bit about side chick behaviors. Okay. Now I got to frame this carefully. Okay. Because I do not want this conversation to feel like an attack on us as women. Okay. We are human. We are having a human experience. And I don't want this to be seen as an attack. Again, I am I don't have any moral authority on this conversation. I can talk about my experiences. I can talk about my mistakes and, what helped to shape me and so on and so forth. But I don't have a moral authority on any of this. But I'm asking this because I want to kind of go into the side chick conversations. But Mickey says, I'm drinking rum and Coke. Cheers, cheers, cheers. I'm drinking my concoction is Crown Royal blackberry and lemon juice. Okay. Stephanie says, when you allow foolish things go in the relationship instead of letting them know that they were wrong or didn't handle the situation in the right way. Exactly. When we lose our voice, okay. The number one clue in enabling a person's bad behavior in a relationship is when we lose our voice, when we lose our stance, when we don't stand up for ourselves. That crosses the line into enabling a person's behavior, enabling versus loyalty. You got to be able to speak up for yourself. Okay. But you got to recognize that that's what you're doing. Okay. So the reason why I pose that question is to lead into this side chick behavior conversation. Okay. And I wanted to have this conversation because, again, I'm on YouTube, and when you clue into YouTube and you begin to, be active on YouTube, so much comes across your algorithms. Okay. And I have gone down the rabbit hole, I'm gonna be honest, because she has taken over my algorithms. Brandy says tequila and peach lemonade. Cheers to you too, Brandy. Cheers, tequila and peach lemonade. But this young lady has taken over my damn algorithms, okay? And that is Clarissa Shields, okay? If y'all don't know who Clarissa Shields is, Clarissa is the boxer, two-time gold Olympic winner. She's a professional boxer. She's a young woman. Her rise to fame started when she was about 11 or 12. She has a whole biopic about herself. And she has taken over my algorithms, y'all. Now I'm gonna say this because when I have made posts, sometimes I post questions of the day, so on and so forth. One of my questions of the day or topics of the day has centered around Clarissa Shields. She is a young woman. She's from Flint, Michigan. And again, she's taken over my algorithms, but not for good reasons. Okay. She is what I would call the quintessential side chick. Okay. So Clarissa is more what I think more popular and has gone viral more often than not for her boxing abilities, because she is undisputed. She is a world champion. Again, she's won 2 gold Olympic medals. And so her skill set, her athleticism, her abilities is untouched, unmatched. We give her all the kudos. She has been called the face of women's boxing. She has no kids. She got it going on in terms of what we would say as Black women is do your thing, young sister, do your thing, represent us well. Clarissa is not representing us well, okay? Whenever I have had these conversations, the first thing people want to say, and I even see it on the YouTube street, people want to say, oh, you hating. There's nothing about Clarissa Shields in her life, especially in what I see, that is anything that I personally, as a blogger, YouTuber, or whatever you want to call me, content creator, there's so many terms out there, would want to hate on about her. But Clarissa is viral every single day, and her virality is centered around her relationship with Papoose. Now, we do know Papoose is like an underground hip hop artist, if you don't know. Okay. If you ain't up on hip hop like I'm up on hip hop, but he's an underground hip hop artist. He is married to Remy Ma. And so there's just a whole lot. I don't even have time to even go into and dig into that story. But her viral moments have come because she's attached herself to a married man, and she is currently in a relationship. Now we can unpack that. I got thoughts about that, but we just gonna say, for the sake of this conversation, she is currently in a relationship with a married man who is Papoose. He is still married to Remy Ma, and they are very open and or she's very open and very public about their relationship. And she is catching all kind of hell on social media, especially by Black women. She is catching, and I even seen some Black men, these YouTubers, they are going in on Clarissa. But her behaviors are one that pattern exactly what we've talked about: searching for validation, the desire to be validated by a man, the desire to be picked by a man, the desire to to just be seen as attached to this man. Okay. And she is what I call the quintessential side chick. Now, my thing, so there's a side of me that says, why can't what happened to the hoes and the side chicks of yesteryear? What happened to the hoes from back in the day? What happened to the side chicks from back in the day? Because what I think is that we have developed in the climate of social media and social media relationships and influencers and the desire to go viral all the time, we have developed, and I more so see it in the younger generation, we have developed an ideology or behavior and attitude that side chick behavior is cool. Okay. Now, back in our day, I wish the hoes of yesteryear would come back and teach these new hoes something. But back in our day, hoes and side chicks remained in the closet. Okay. They didn't put themselves out on Front Street. A woman that was messing with a married man didn't openly admit or flaunt the fact that she was messing with a married man. Now, you do have some women that have some audacity, okay, especially in this era of social media. So I feel like we have moved into this space where side chicks are no longer being silent anymore. They are openly, willingly showing themselves to be hoes and showing themselves to be side chicks. Okay. Mickey says these hoes and side chicks of today want to be relevant so they don't keep quiet. Exactly. They are not keeping quiet. Now I blame that on, and I can't think of who this who this artist is. I'm having a brain moment, but I do know that back in the day, our old R&B, Barbara called up Shirley, or Shirley called up Barbara and said, "Hey Shirley, this is Barbara. Let me have a conversation with you. That man that you're sleeping with is my man. You know, your husband is my man." And in the 80s, we had all of these like songs that was dedicated, you know, Vesta and congratulations and all these things that alluded to women being side chicks and revealing themselves to the woman. Okay. Um, but even then, there was a level of discretion, and it wasn't so verbata when you were a side chick. Okay. Mickey says they paint a glamorous picture of being a side chick. And so I fear that we have moved into this era where being a side chick is, like you said, being glamorized. Okay. And women are abandoning themselves for validation. Women often are competing for emotionally unavailable people. They're competing with the wife who is legally married to this man for his attention. They are accepting of being the side chick. Now, I know we also live in a culture where multiple women and polygamy and all that thing is the trend now. But we also we're in a space where all too often women want to be chosen so badly that their standards are disappearing. Okay. Again, they're competing for emotionally unavailable people. They're accepting crumbs. Okay. And if you have observed this relationship with Clarissa and Papoose, clearly there is some imbalance there. If you are a wife, if you know anything, you have any level of wisdom, and you observe this relationship, because again, I done went down the rabbit hole of this relationship, okay? And so I've watched other YouTubers, I've watched, you know, this relationship unfold and all the chaos and toxicity around it. But if you have watched it, you can clearly tell a couple different things. Papoose still loves his wife, even though they're not together. And he is not giving Clarissa what she needs to feel solidified in this relationship. Now she's performing, they're performing for social media. They're taking the pictures, the videos, the reels, and going live and doing all the things that on the outside would make us think, oh, they really love each other. But clearly, you can see Clarissa, being a young woman, has some internal struggles that she is dealing with, and that has bled over into her accepting crumbs from a man. Okay. And so I think it's unfortunate that we have moved to that culture where that is acceptable. Okay. Bring back the old hoes, bring back the old school hoes where they knew their place. Okay. Back in the day when your mama and your grandma was married to your daddy, your granddaddy, and he had a family on the other side of town, that woman on the other side of town knew her damn place. She knew not to call Bertha's house and cause no ruckus. She knew not to come knocking at Bertha's door saying nothing about your husband, my man. She knew her damn place. Okay. But that's not true in today's culture. And I really think that social media has a lot to do with that. And so some women are loyal to men who aren't even loyal to the truth. And so what we find, unfortunately, again, this is no attack on us as women, because I'm all for women, but it's again to impart us wisdom. But sometimes we find, or we find that women are auditioning for a permanent role in someone's life. Okay. If you have to audition for a role in someone's life, a permanent role, if you have to constantly lay down your self-worth, fight for scraps, is that a relationship worth having? Is that a relationship worth keeping? Is that the person that you need to be in relationship with? Something just to ask us to evaluate ourselves. Okay. Some women are loyal to men who aren't even loyal to honesty. Okay. And so, yeah, side chick behavior. Now, if you don't know nothing about Clarissa and Papoose, you don't have to go down the rabbit hole like I did. But again, she has taken over my algorithms, and I just think it's a sad situation that she, as a young lady, has found herself in. She has so much potential, but ever since she attached herself to Papoose, and now they're open and it's all on social media, there has been nothing but toxicity and chaos following that relationship. When I look at it from a spiritual perspective, not everybody believes like I believe, but when I look at it from a spiritual perspective, I I see that, one, it is a remnant of God rejecting that relationship, or saying that it's not so, because there's too much toxicity and chaos surrounding it. God, we can say it, that God don't bless no mess. God don't bless no thing. That we can't ask for God to bless things that doesn't have a solid foundation, that doesn't acknowledge Him. You can't impede on somebody's covenant. Okay, there, whether he approached you, he pursued you, whatever the case may be, you cannot impede on somebody's in covenants and expect to get a blessing out of that. Okay, again, I'm no moral authority. Now, some of us that's checking in may have found ourselves in similar situations where we have played the side chick willingly. Okay, or we may have found ourselves in a situation where we didn't know the man was married, whatever the case may be. But you have to know that God does not bless those situations when we infiltrate willingly, unsuspectingly. Once we come into the knowledge of that man is married, we got to cut it off, because there's nothing good that comes out of that situation. Okay. All right. Let me drop this question in the chat and we'll move on. We're almost done with our conversation, but again, I want to keep you as a part of the conversation. So my next engagement question, let me just drop this in the chat and share your thought. You can share your thoughts with me. Because again, what we see of the Clarissa Shields, this is that whole relationship, her relationship with Papoose, is one that's viral and trending right now, but it's not new. Okay. It's not new to social media, but my question for you is, has social media and dating culture normalized women accepting crumbs? What are your thoughts? Have social media and dating culture normalized women accepting crumbs? Go and take a sip of your wine. Go and take a sip of your drink as you ponder on that. And let me know what you think. Let me know what you think. Have social media and dating culture normalized women accepting crumbs? Put it in the chat. Again, I just think social media is not a real place. It's real people behind the keyboard, right? But it's not what I would say is real. Social media is not real. However, because it's such an influence and impact on us, we often buy into the trend. We often buy into the relationships that we see, things that are trending. Okay. Now, I want to touch on, while you're thinking about that, put your answers in the chat. We'll come back to that. I want to move into the other part of this. Again, this is lessons in lipstick. We're talking about, if you're just checking in, we are talking about lipstick and lessons. The ride or die mentality must die. What is a term that I had to even look up for myself, okay? Because again, I'm from Generation X, and social media and the viral moments and the generation that drives social media is our younger generation, okay? Us old folks, or what, those of us who are seasoned, okay, we're on Facebook and Facebook only, okay? It took years for us to get our ass on Facebook. It took us to learn Facebook, and then when Facebook, was the norm, then they brought in Instagram, and then they brought in all these other social media platforms, and then they brought in TikTok, and some of us are still trying to learn how to navigate TikTok. But the drivers of what goes viral, the drivers of who is influential and who is considered the influencers, is typically driven by our Gen Z population, okay? And so there's this term called pick me, okay? The pick me culture. And to answer our question, we'll come back to that. Says yes, it does influence, and no, it's more of an inside thing, their insecurity. Jamaica says, I don't think so. Some women are simply settling because they don't want to be alone. Absolutely. The fear of being alone is a real thing, right? The fear of being alone, the fear of never being married, the fear of never being in a relationship, the fear of never being able to experience what it feels like to have someone love you, the fear of just never having that whole experience. That's a real. So we don't invalidate anybody's fears or what they feel, because those are real. But Jamaica goes on to say, but I don't think it's because of what they see on social media, but the dating culture definitely affects the acceptance of subpar behavior. The acceptance of subpar behaviors. Absolutely. So this pick me, what we call this pick me culture. So I have been called this, okay? And when I first got called a pick me, it was because I was having some discussion with somebody on social media, and this is what I was called, okay? But this pick me, it's a term that's commonly used on social media to describe women who seek validation, attention, approval, or acceptance, often from men. And they often do that, okay? They're seeking acceptance by men by distancing themselves from or criticizing other women, competing with other women, or lowering herself in relation to other women. At its core, pick me behavior is usually about wanting to be chosen, fearing rejection or loneliness, prioritizing male approval over self respect, or solidarity with other women. Now, I feel a way about the term because I was called it. And to me, I took it as a negative term, but you see it. And I think for me, I think it's an overused term. And sometimes we unfairly label women pick me's. And when I mean pick me, Pick me, pick me, simply for we label some women that simply for dating. We label some women that simply for having positive relationships with men, or sometimes we label women that, or I'm not gonna say we because I don't call people pick me, but the social media generation, the younger generation, often label women that when they have positive relationships with men, when they don't side with women who display, or give negative behaviors, or either they call a woman a pick me when she has traditional values. Okay. In the context of when I was called a pick me, I didn't know what the hell I was being called. I'm like, what this bitch called a pick? Who picked who? I didn't know what I was being called at first because again, I'm seasoned. I'm from the Gen X generation. It took me forever to get on Facebook, and now I'm here. And I just didn't know what that term meant. And so it took a little while before I even knew what a pick me was and what what that meant when you call a woman a pick me. And so looking back, I probably was called that one because I don't have as hard as I know that it is out there in the dating world, in the relationship world, and what we see on social media, I don't have negative feelings towards men in general. Okay. Even before marriage. Okay. I overall had positive relationships with men, positive uh, friendships with men. I've had some bad experiences, right? Some very bad experiences. I've been in some toxic relationships, but I didn't allow those experiences to make me bitter. Okay. I didn't allow those experiences to shape me in such a way that every man that entered into my space, I automatically saw him as the enemy. I don't see men as the enemy. I especially do not see Black men as the enemy. Now, if you come and you talking BS on my topic of the day, or if I see a topic that I want to engage in and you talking BS, yes, I will get with you. Okay. I will express my opinion, but overall, I do not have negative feelings towards men in general. I don't have bitter feelings. I'm not living in the hurt and the pains of my past. I don't view men behaviors through the lens of any trauma that I've accumulated or had to um, get beyond. Okay. So I think that the term is overused. Do I have traditional values? Absolutely. Are there women similar to me who hold to traditional values? Are there women similar to me who don't see men as the enemy? Absolutely. But often those women are called pick me's. Okay. And we often see it overused online. And sometimes it's unfairly labeled. But here's the deeper truth about what we call pick me behaviors. Okay. And so you may see, a woman when it's termed is usually towards women who are either siding with men um, or who are looking for some sort of validation for men. And so that's how the term is used. Okay. Oftentimes it's rooted in what is known as low self-worth, abandonment wounds. Okay. So we don't talk enough about that, especially as black women. How many of you know that you could have been raised with your father? You could have had your father in your life, but still have daddy issues or abandonment wounds. Or you could have seen behaviors from your father and still have daddy issues. Maybe your father was abusive. Maybe your father was an alcoholic. Maybe your father was one of those emotionally unavailable men who came and gave your mama a little bit of attention and then you didn't see his ass for another week when you was growing up. Or maybe it was your granddaddy, whomever. You could have had your father in your life and still have what's called abandonment wounds. Okay. And oftentimes now that the term is out there and experts have done all this, analysis and thesis on the term, they often say that it's attached to women who have been abandoned in some form, some way or another, maybe abandoned by their father, whomever, husband, whatever the case, have abandonment wounds. And so we become conditioned to always seek validation from men in one way or another. Okay. Oftentimes it becomes, again, I'm no therapist. I'm just telling you what I know, what I've studied, what I've learned, what wisdom is teaching me. But oftentimes it becomes a survival tactic for ourselves. Okay. We as Black women know, if we don't know anything else, we know how to survive. Okay. And so the pick me term is often what has been uh, prescribed to Clarissa Shields in her relationship with Papoose, because she has had some childhood traumas. I think she was molested as a child. She even in her young adulthood, it's been alleged that she has been taken advantage of by some of her trainers, that her boxing trainers. It's been alleged that she has been pregnant on several occasions and been made to get rid of the child because of her boxing career. And she just grew up in a hard life. And so she has been one person that has been termed a pick-me, not just for her side chick behavior, but because she aligns herself with Papoose in such a way that she diminishes herself. And again, her career was a rising career, and her brand was blooming, and she has all these accomplishments until she connected herself with this married man, Papoose. And ever since then, it's been nothing but chaos and toxicity and broken relationships and arguments on social media, all of those things. Toxic love, struggle love, it's what we often term it, and all centered around her wanting this love and security of a man. Okay. So while social media often mocks women who and call them pick-me's, there's a deeper conversation. There's a deeper level to women who are called that term often because of the emotional validation and healing that they need, and the emotional validation that they're seeking. Okay. And so whenever you hear that term, and again, it's relevant for this conversation because it fits into the narrative of the ride or die chick, and how often when we take on that mantra, when we accept crumbs, there's something deeper going on. And sometimes we need therapy to figure that out. Sometimes we need self-reflection. Oftentimes we need accountability, but sometimes we got to go internal to understand why we act out and display certain behaviors. Okay. Again, I think it's an overused term. Sometimes it's just a sign to women just because she had an opposing opinion, or just because she does not have this negative attitude towards men, but it's called the pick me behavior. Okay. So nobody wanted to come up and have a conversation with me today. Y'all scared? Y'all was scared today? We're almost done. But continue to put your thoughts in the chat. And I just want to, before we wrap up our conversation, I just want to give you some nuggets, okay? Because this is lipstick and lessons, and it would not be me unless we walk away and we have something valuable to take with us, okay? And so I just want to share these quick points, okay, to kind of end and wrap up our conversation. But struggle love is not a flex, okay? You are deserving of love that does not require you to struggle. You are deserving of love that does not allow you to diminish yourself. In fact, when it's real and it's authentic love, you shouldn't have to. Now, that does not mean that love does not come with its hard times, but you should not struggle love is no longer a flex. Okay. We saw our grandmothers do, we saw our mothers struggle love, but that was a different time frame. Okay. Us as women have evolved, there's a whole debate around that, but we have evolved to a place where we don't have to struggle for love. Okay. Now, sometimes you got to do the internal work, okay? Because sometimes we have to be honest about failed relationships and what part that we played or what part we are playing in failed relationships. But struggle love is not a flex, okay? There is no glory in suffering for someone, okay? Um, Sometimes trauma bonding can be mistaken for deep love, okay? We have to stop pouring into relationships and becoming depleted ourselves. When you find yourself in a place where you are constantly pouring, not getting anything in return, you're depleting yourself for the sake of relationships. Relationships, true relationships, real love should not require your constant survival. You shouldn't constantly be in survival mode. Okay. A relationship should not feel like emotional poverty. Sometimes we are, as women, we're dying and drowning trying to prove that we are loyal. Struggle love is not a flex, not in 2026. Okay. Um, Leave the ride or die culture. We should not have to die for our love. Okay. I remember talking to a friend, and this is a friend who has passed on a couple years ago when I lived in Indianapolis. And I remember us having this conversation about ride or die. And one of the first things she said to me, she's like, well, why do I got to die to love you? Okay. We should not have to die for love. Okay. Love should bring about true love, real love. If it's real, if it's authentic, if it's working its way up to love, it should bring about a relief in some instances. Love should make you feel safe. If you can't feel safe with that man, then you have to evaluate whether or not that is a love that you're willing to die for. If that loyalty to that person is something that you're willing to die for. Okay. So it's important for us to have standards. It's important for us to know when to battle to stay or when to walk away. Okay. Sometimes we as women, we get, especially as Black women, we get praised for surviving a relationship that we should have escaped a long time ago. Okay. We get praised for hanging in there. And listen, this is not promoting divorce. I'm not promoting that at all. I'm not promoting throwing caution to the wind when you're in a relationship and not sitting and assessing and thinking through. But you really have to determine whether or not you're in a relationship just surviving or you're thriving. Is it progressing or is it digressing? Are you living in this relationship or are you slowly dying? And so you have to do that internal work to assess that. Again, some of the reason why we get into relationships and we just survive as opposed to thriving is because we've been conditioned, because we've taken on that mentality, because our mamas are old school, our grandmamas are old school, our daddies are old school, whomever, and they tell us to, work through it, suffer through it, but struggle love is not real love. Okay. Sometimes we have childhood trauma. Sometimes we're financially dependent on those relationships. Sometimes we have a fear of failure. Sometimes it's just, again, the pressure from the community around us. But struggle love is not real love. Okay. We don't have to, just because we were taught to endure does not mean that we need to endure in order to get to that place of love. Okay. So we have to choose our own healing over guilt. And we have to, and here's where the lessons come in. This is where the wisdom comes in. Okay. Because I want you to walk away from this conversation and have some wisdom. It is okay to set boundaries. Okay. Setting boundaries in a relationship is not betrayal. In fact, what I have found for myself personally is when I have set boundaries in a relationship or set boundaries with a man, even, even with my husband before we got married, when I have set those boundaries, that brings on a different level of respect. Okay. Men often do not respect or find it harder to respect, or they often devalue women who do not have boundaries in place, who do not set boundaries. And so it is important for you to set boundaries. Hell, even us as married women have to ensure that we are setting boundaries, even in our marriage. Okay. You have to leave toxic situations that are not growing. You have to make that difficult decision. You have to choose peace over loyalty. You have to choose healing over devaluing your self-worth. And you have to redefine for yourself, really come to understand and do the work where you understand what healthy love looks like. A lot of us did not grow up knowing, seeing, understanding, having an example of healthy love. And so that's how and why we find ourselves in situations where we attach ourselves to toxic relationships and toxic situations. So setting boundaries, choosing yourself is not selfish. And you don't have to be in survival mode in a relationship. And so I just want to share this, which I think is powerful. Okay. A powerful statement. And we're almost done, y'all. Nobody wants to come on and have conversation. And that's okay. Maybe I will next lipstick and lessons. But the strongest thing a woman can do is stop abandoning herself to keep someone else comfortable. And I'm going to just let you ponder on that. But the strongest thing a woman can do is stop abandoning herself. And what is abandoning yourself? That's abandoning your values. That's abandoning your self-worth. That's abandoning your morals. That is abandoning seeing the red flags. The strongest thing a woman can do is to stop abandoning herself to keep someone else comfortable. Okay. Lipsticks and lessons, y'all. Lipsticks and lessons, y'all. Lipstick and lessons. Okay. Here's a couple other points that I want to make. Okay. Sometimes as women, and again, this is not an attack on us. This is just us speaking truth. We do conversations different over here. Okay. So we speak truth. We keep it real. And sometimes it's going to pierce you. Okay. But, a lot of women, unfortunately, are in relationships where they're in what's called emotional rehabilitation centers. Okay. So you're in a relationship and you're spending your time, your energy trying to rehabilitate this man, whomever you're in a relationship with, in order to fix him or get him or hope or get him to a place where he's good for us. So you're depleting yourself trying to build this man up so that he could be the man that he needs to be for you in a relationship. Okay. So you have to evaluate if you're attaching yourself in a relationship where you are in emotional rehabilitation center. Okay. We as Black women are expected to be loyal through everything except our own healing. We are often more loyal to relationships than we are to our own healing. Okay. And then you have to also come to realize that some people, okay, and this is one thing that I picked up and noted from this whole debacle in relationship with the Clarissa and the Papoose, but some people, they don't want a partner. They just want access to your sacrifice. Okay. They just want to benefit from you from some way. And so it is important for us as we are going, if we're on the dating scene, if we're hoping for marriage, all of those things, even if we're not hoping for marriage, we just want to be loved. We just want to partner with someone. It is important for us to be able to discern and make sure that we're not entering into relationships where we have to sacrifice ourselves or go into survival love. Okay. Love is beautiful. Relationships are beautiful. We said it earlier that um, marriage is beautiful. It's not easy. I can testify to that. It's not beautiful. It's not easy, but is it a beautiful thing? When I got married is the best decision that I could have made for myself at the time. I myself, um, for me personally, am happy that I got married at a later age as opposed to a younger age. This is no diss to people who have got married young and have been married for a long time. But for me, I just had a lot of things that I had to navigate through from a trauma standpoint. And so in my younger years, in my 20s, going into my 30s, I probably wouldn't have not been any good to any man in terms of being a wife. I was much more suited when I reached, my latter 30s, heading into my 40s, um, and much more healed in that and navigated through all of my traumas and all of the things that I needed to do to kind of evolve and to heal from some of my trauma. Once once I got a little older and I adapted some wisdom. But I went into my marriage not with necessarily a ride or die mentality. Okay, but with a mentality of, and ride or die, not in the sense that I have to sacrifice myself, but I went into marriage with the mindset of, this is partnership, this is covering. God has blessed me with covering, and my husband don't play about me, and I don't play about my husband, right? And so I'm blessed in that in that area, that I have a husband that covers me in a lot of different ways, that I'm safe. But it is important for us to be safe in relationships and in marriage. And so my hope for those who have checked in is that you do not see struggle love as a flex, that you no longer confuse loyalty with self-abandonment, that you do away with this mentality that you have to be ride or die and die to be in a relationship, and that you know that you deserve a love that honors you, you deserve a love that protects you, and you deserve a love that chooses you fully. Okay? Okay? If you with me, if you agree, put some kissy lips in the chat, put some high heels in the chat. That's it. That's all. That's all I got for y'all on this evening. Thank you for tuning in to tonight's High Heels and Lipstick conversation, lipsticks and lessons on this evening. If tonight's conversation spoke to you, make sure that you like and share, comment. You can continue the conversation in the chat. It does not have to end here. If you are happen to catch me on the replay, please share your thoughts and your perspectives in the chat. If you're checking in with me on YouTube, listen, I am trying to boost up my numbers. Often content creators, when they do this, when they get their numbers boosted, it's because they're on here every day, all day, 3, 4, 5 times a day. I ain't got that kind of time on me. Okay. So I'm not expecting to go viral with these lipstick conversations or anything of that nature. If I don't do, so be it. I'll embrace it, and I'll ride the wave at the moment. But my purpose and what I'm here for is to empower, to educate, to inspire. That's what High Heels and Lipstick conversation is all about. And so please like, share, promote, let me know that you are here. Please continue the conversation in the chat, and continue, the conversation. I also want to take a moment. I mentioned earlier that I am working on a second edition to some books that a book that I have written. And so I have been asked how to purchase my book. And so I want to share with you on how to purchase my book. So actually, let me take this comment off. Let me take this comment off. But I've written 2 books. One, 7 Lessons for Her. Y'all can tell I've been using Chat GPT, ain't y'all? Can't y'all tell? Yeah, I've been using Chat GPT. That woman up there don't even look like me. She looks similar, but she don't look like me. I ain't that thin, but whatever. It works. It works. But I've written 2 books for your consideration. 7 Lessons for Her. This is for my girls. It was the first book that I self-published. And so you can purchase that by going to my website, namiacarnice.com. Also, Lipstick Affirmation, Words of Wisdom Every Grown Ass Woman Needs to Know. Again, I am working on a second edition of that book, which I hope to drop sometime this summer, late summer, early fall. And it's going to be more robust, but you can still purchase the first edition again just by going to my website, namiacarnice.com. There is something in those books for each of us. And so I would appreciate your support. I am also looking for sponsorship. Okay. So I'm looking to grow. I'm looking to grow the brand, and I want to help you to grow your brand. So if you happen to be a business owner or brand owner and you are interested in sponsoring High Heels and Lipstick Conversation, please get in contact with me. You can reach out to me at info@sheisnamia.com for sponsorship packages and details. I would love to build with you and help you to build your brand, as well as advertise your brand, as well as be in partnership with you to grow together. But that is it. That is all I have on this evening. Again, thank you for being here on this evening. I really appreciate your time, your attention. I appreciate those who checked in the chat. Until next time, I need you to stay bold, stay brilliant, stay you, and keep connected to me so that you can know I'll be back before you in another week or so with another lipstick and lessons conversation. Share with your friends. If tonight was a good conversation, just let them know about me. And until we meet again, smooches, y'all. I appreciate y'all for being here. You've been kissed. You've been blessed. Have a good evening.